Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good morning, distinguished viewers across the world. We welcome you to today's program on Western Spring Television, Channel 190 Star Times, TTT, and also on YouTube at Western Spring Television. This is Morning Spring, and this is where we look at critical issues, trending ones as well, issues of public importance. We critique, we analyze, we have policy makers, look into these issues with us with balanced reportage, balanced opinions and angles. And the aim is arriving at having a better nation and a working nation, a nation that we are proud of. Good people, great nation, nation called Nigeria. Issues at the national level, subnationals, sometimes beyond the borders of our land. Thank you for being here with us. Once again, I'm Femi and I welcome you to today's program. It will be very, very interesting. We don't want to go nowhere. Please, Evelyn is there as usual. Good morning.
Good morning, Femi. How are you doing today?
Thank you.
Good morning, people. Thank you so much for joining us on the midweek installment of Morning Spring. We appreciate you all of the time. Today is another beautiful day, and we are here to roll, bringing you issues that you should be abreast of and helping you have a broader and deeper perspective of this issue, speaking to critical stakeholders, politicians, policymakers, so that you, our dear viewers, can be on top of the matter of the situation. My name is Evelyn Ohiole. Thank you indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Evelyn. And of course, talking about what has happened since yesterday, the last 48 hours have been very eventful. Talking about governance in Nigeria, the political scene, the ways we do things around here, pronouncement, from the president, from the number one, 001 himself, talking about President Bola Tinubu. Some pronouncement he has made, some, suspensions here and there. The EFCC, excuse me, are having a field day with the kind of guests that they've been having. They've extended their invitation to some high-profile persons, and some of them have obliged them. Some of them are still with them, and we get to look into that in the course of this program. But very notably is what the chief, the spokesman to the president said yesterday. That's Chief during Kelali, when he said the president has given a directive speaking to the slash in the number of entourage of political office holders now, speaking about national level and foreign trips and local trips for president, 20 persons. That's talking about foreign trips, the maximum number of people that can travel with him. Foreign trips is 20 persons, vice president, 5 persons, first lady, 5 persons, minister, 4 persons. Heads of MDAs, only 2 persons. And local trips, the president has maximum of 25 persons to travel with him in aides, assistant security personnel, vice president, 15 persons, and first lady, 10 persons. And people have been talking about this to say, 60% slash in the entourage of these political orders, talking about the cost of governance. How much of an effect would these have? Evelyn, how did you receive that news yesterday?
Well, it's a good development. I mean, the president seemed, like I said earlier, to be reacting to things, and I think this is the way to go for any president. I would always say that the past administration was more of one that was so far away from the people. It was like they were there and the people were here. But we have a president to speak to issues, who react to issues, and with this slash in the entourage, it will definitely have a theme with the expenditure of in governance. But people are asking for more, like Oliver Twist asking for more. So some ministries are not supposed to even be there. There should be a slash in ministries and all of that. But then it's they say I've read. I would just say I've read is better than none. So we are somewhere here now. So and we hope that as we progress, things will be better. Do you have a feeling
that Mr. President is listening?
Of course,
I do. What people are saying.
I do think he is listening.
These actions reflect that.
Yes, he is listening to what people want, to what people are saying. So many actions in the past few days, few months that actually speaks to the fact that Mr. President is listening. There is no doubt about that.
Who monitors? Because many persons will rightly say, we have been here before. Even before COP28, we had something similar, even when not exactly like this. Previous governments have spoken about this. Who monitors that these things are done?
Well, it is what it is. It
is what it is.
Yes.
You are sounding like what we used to know.
They'll definitely have someone that monitors. I mean,
because that's the main thing.
There is a structure. So it's not a structureless government. There is a structure. They know how it works right there in their thing. But then, of course, probably would ask Oladeji. He might be an inside man and knows who monitors.
He knows so much about governance.
He will be coming in right after when we have the newspaper review, which is going to be right now.
And the newspaper is the next thing, but that will be after this break. Please stay with us.
All right, we start now with, we head on to the newspaper review, and I'm going to be starting with the Nation newspaper for today. Like we said, it's been an eventful week. This big one here on the Nation newspaper, 37 billion naira, 585 million naira probe. Sadia Edu barred from traveling. EFCC impounds international passports. 3 bank MDs squeezed Interior Minister at the Aso Villa. No sacred cow in anti-graft battle, says Olukoyede. And of course, we have this headline still on the Nation newspaper for today. Supreme Court reserves judgment on Mutwang's appeal against SAC. And police parade suspects in Plateau killings. Others. Tinubu orders cut of presidents, vice presidents, traveling teams, First Lady, ministers, agencies, CEOs, others affected. And shut third mainland bridge worsens gridlock. Police rescue hotelier head after payment of 25 million naira ransom. And Rivers Assembly awaits for Barra's 2024 budget. Others, soldier in trouble for insulting Sanwo-Olu. All right, move to Ladeji Alabi. Thank you so much for joining us for today. How are you doing?
Very well. Good morning, Femi.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you here again. Thank you.
So let me take you on the big one, 37 billion naira, 585 million naira probe. Sadia Edu barred from traveling. What do you make of all this brouhaha happening in this Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs?
When I look at the total amount that these 3 beautifully, not so old women, have mismanaged in that ministry, what comes to my mind every now and then is, are they proving to us that what a man can do, a woman can do better? But now because we are talking about 80 billion plus, amongst the 3 of them now. I'm not talking about better.
Are you sure it's among the 3 of them? Definitely, people are saying that there are other people that actually have shared that is culpable in this scandal.
If you are used as the head of this organization and there is a misappropriation, before we talk about the people under you, we're talking about you as the head first. Now, yes, I was reading a piece yesterday about how the project manager for this particular humanitarian project jumped because the permanent in the bureaucracy of the Ministry of federal ministries, even the state ministry, the permanent secretary is the chief accounting officer of the ministry. So the relationship should be between the minister and the permanent secretary. But the program officer jumped the PS, went to the minister. The minister, maybe because she's a novice, signed it, whatever. The bureaucracy there was now actually jumped. But however, it is a good thing. I said it on Monday. The first thing for Betta Edu to do is to resign, but she did not. The president had to tell her, go and sit down. Do you get? Now, let the EFCC do their job. Let also the, what was the name of the head of the civil service of the Federation, let them also put a serious investigation into how the bureaucracy was jumped. How did you omit the office of the permanent secretary? You move straight to the office of the minister. How do you, as a project manager, in the ministry, goes ahead, maybe by whatever means, used a personal account to get a fund? I repeat it, there is nowhere in the world that you will use your personal account to take money that is, man, it is sad because we tag this money meant for the poorest of the poor. I don't know if that's the language we use here. But if you are emboldened to embezzle such a money, then you have graduated from being a wicked person. I don't know the class you are going to.
All right, thank you, Femi.
All right, to The Guardian. Right now, The Guardian newspaper, 585 million naira humanitarian scandal. Nigerians want probe expanded to other poverty alleviation schemes. Week 6 of The Guardian to say, you know what, it's not just about the NSIPA, you should probe other schemes as well, especially in that ministry and everything that has to do with it, even beyond. And you have the picture of the EFCC, the logo, the eagle is there, looking. And then the president is there. Of course, the woman in the eye of the storm right now, Ms. Betta Edu, who has been told to go and step aside so the investigation can continue. We learned she was with the EFCC yesterday or thereabout. Nigeria's economy to grow at 3.3% in 2024, World Bank projects. Again, Nigeria's economy to grow at 3.3% in 2024, World Bank project. And APC sues Adeleke for appointing PDP member as OCEC chairman. Okay, APC sues Adeleke for appointing PDP member as OCEC chairman. And federal government probes private universities over fake degrees. News page 3, especially coming at the heels, on the heels rather, of what was reported last week by an undercover reporter, Mr. Umaru, getting certificate without stepping out of the shores of this land. That isn't in a foreign country, but then within here, people saying you should please probe these, especially private universities and everything that needs to be probed, by the way. Moving on, Niger school leaders free President Bazoum's son, and federal government's pledge to end insecurity. That's an editorial page, by the way. Federal government's pledge to end insecurity. Somebody just looked into that. And of course, we have the governor of Ogun State here, flanked by several people and directors of TG Group. But moving on, Army confirms arrest of soldier for insulting Sanwo-Olu. General Lagbaja talked about that yesterday and said they've looked at some of these persons in uniform and only one of them seems to be a real army, maybe that junior officer. By the way, and he said he's been taken care of. The matter has been looked into. Supreme Court reserves judgment in Delta Plateau Guba appeals. These will be a big week, by the way. And Tinubu slashes official trip expenses entourage by 60%. Let me bring in Ladiji from there. Way to go?
I think it is impressive to a couple of Nigerians.
To you?
I am an Oliver Twist because
But looking at this.
No, Femi, the perspective I'm looking at Nigeria, see, I don't want to believe we are a poor nation, so to say. I believe we do not have revenue generation problem. We have spending problem. We spend unnecessarily. So that is why I said I will be an Oliver Twist. At the first instance, I'm not expecting a first lady to travel with entourage. We did not vote for her. She is not known to the Constitution. It is the office of the president, the vice president. And a lot of time I ask myself this question.
So she's more like the wife of the president.
She's like the wife of the president. Give her maybe a few security detail, whatever.
As a VIP.
As a VIP, not as, okay, SA to the first lady, SSA to the first lady. We create an office for the first lady. We put budget there every now and then. We don't need it. We are still a struggling nation. Okay. All this money, why don't we spend it on our education, on our health system? Why don't we spend it on roads so that our senators, our House of Rep members will not tell us we are buying SUVs because the roads are bad? Why do we just want to spend unnecessarily? But now, let's come to the reality. At least it's a step in the right direction. Okay. Let's slash this. Let's see what we can bring down. Even though, Femi, the reality is there are a lot of other loopholes. Now, in the first instance, is country like Nigeria, why do we have close to 40 ministers, minister of state for this, minister of that, SA, SSAs, running into hundreds? Why do we? What do we need them for? Why do we have so much MDAs that are literally duplicating their own jobs? You have this one doing this job, another one doing almost the same thing. Right. Why don't we bring those things down and cut the cost of spending unnecessarily? And also, as a struggling nation, I don't see why we should have about 10 aircraft in the presidential fleet. We don't need it. We do not need it.
One I want to say, one step after the other.
You see, at this stage,
100 loopholes, one has been breached, right?
One, it still doesn't change the fact that we still have. Now, 2 days ago, we're talking about the National Assembly budgeting over 30 billion naira to renovate the National Assembly. All right. 2 years ago, no, not 2 years ago, 2022, it's almost 2 years now. 27 point something billion naira was budgeted to renovate the same National Assembly. You ask yourself, what are we renovating in 2 years?
But this particular one is
it's still
in the right direction.
Like we are tilting towards, okay, let's start. We've not moved yet, but let's start.
But it's a tilt.
It's a little tilt, Femi. I'm not satisfied
that
yet.
Will be all, yeah.
Do you actually think that there is this selective action by Mr. President? I actually heard someone say this yesterday, that that Mr. President is selective of his actions. Like, we had the supplementary budget, we had the 2024 budget, and there were things that were unnecessary in that budget that the president allowed to fly.
Of course.
Things we could have used to cut costs, to reduce expenditure. One is the budgeting of 1.5 billion naira for the office of the First Lady for our cars, the renovation and re-renovation of the different his own quarters, the VP's quarters, and all of that. People said that it's like selective action from Mr. President. Do you also share that
I think
view?
the right word has been used. In fairness, that's why, Femi, I said I'm not satisfied.
Okay.
Because the 1.5 billion naira we are budgeting for the office of the First Lady, Femi, that money will take care of at least a few of our schools. It will take care of a few hospitals. Now, I always make use of Tanzania. Magufuli, the president of, I think he's now the former president, when he came on board as the president of Tanzania, he went on an unannounced visit to the National Hospital, and he saw people sleeping on the, patients on the floor. He sacked the CMD and told them the money we are going to use to, celebrate our National Independence Day, put it into the hospital. For now, he barred all international travel. He told them, he said, any meeting they are inviting us for, that the ministry in charge cannot go with maybe 2 or 3 people. Let the ambassador in that country go and represent us. Right. That is what you do when you know you have a serious money crisis. Right. Not budgeting 1.5 billion for office of the First Lady that is not known to the Constitution. Not budgeting and rebudgeting money for the National Assembly, where many of them go to and sleep every now and then.
Okay, thank you so much, Ladeji. We head on to Daily Independent newspaper for today. And on Daily Independent, outcry trails increase of aviation agencies' contribution to TSA. Stakeholders want 50% TSA may impact passenger safety, comfort. And away from that, Army to address security dark areas in Enugu, says COAS. An FG supporting MSMEs with 125 billion naira, says Shatima. And Okupe, a political opportunist, goes where food is ready. That's coming from the Labour Party, reacting to the resignation of the former Director General of Peter Obi campaign organization. Anyanwu remains PDP's National Secretary. Court declares, that's on page 6. And Gabriel Attal appointed youngest French Prime Minister at 34. Tinubu cuts overheads, number of officials for trips by 60%. Will tackle pressure on foreign exchange. FG reassuring us there. And FG ASU fashion out modalities for averting industrial crisis. And still talking about fake degree, FG constitutes 8-man committee to probe degree mills. It's called here on Daily Independent. Ladeji, outcry trails increase of aviation agencies' contribution to TSA. Stakeholders warn that 50% TSA may impact passenger safety comfort. You had what was said the other day that each agency, each ministry agency will be able to remit 50% of their revenue to the coffers of the Treasury single account. And now they're saying some agencies cannot afford to actually remit up to 50%.
Most of the times in Nigeria, we get it wrong. Agencies that are really not meant to generate funds, we want them to generate funds at all costs, and we put more pressure on the citizens that are not really, out there, they are still poor people. I was telling someone 2 days ago, you don't have to impress an American. They know we are poor people. They know. So it is not, when they view us as a poor people, they are not being bad or something. They know we are still struggling.
But we're poor. Is Africa really poor?
Now, so if you want to take it from the from the standard of living of the people, okay, we are poor.
Okay.
But if you want to take it by whatever the nations are meant to be, in terms of natural resources, in terms of anything, I can tell you, had it been Africans, have been blessed with leaders that at foresight will be top there. Because let me shock you, over 60% of the natural resources of the world are residents here in Africa. There are that's why you see many of them, the Chinese, all of them want to come here, because there are a lot of deposits of natural resources here. But, because we care less, once our leaders get a little chunk of that, the citizens can go on to them. But that's not the conversation we are having now. One of the things that adhered me to just demand that, I don't like the word they use in taking him out of the office. Babatunde Irukera are dismissed. You don't dismiss someone that doesn't have, a corruption charge on him or whatever. FCCPC. He said something, I think his last interview before, this Buhari came up. He said he doesn't want his agency to generate money again. Not because they are not working, but because manufacturers are doing the right thing.
So they don't get to be fined. It's
FCC,
first about the
safety of the people.
Consumers' protection.
FCCPC is not a fund-generating agency for the government. Primarily, their job is to make sure the manufacturers do the right thing. But because we have people that care less, the way I can show to the president that I'm working is when I find people. The way I can show to the people is that I'm generating fund, I'm doing this. It's not meant to be. That's why I have issues with JAMB. Every now and then JAMB is saying we are bringing in billions of naira at the expense of the people. Every year we increase the JAMB fee. And what they will tell you is education should not be free. It should not be cheap. But many of these folks read Awolow's book, and Awolow's book was literally free.
All right. Thank you, Ladeji.
From there, let's go to the Punch. Right now, many interesting stories there. Humanitarian Ministry scandals, in plural now. EFCC seizes Edu, former minister's passports. Bank MDs grilled, suspended minister barred from traveling. Okay. And of course, you have these just beneath it. Police parade 3 suspects linked to Plateau killings. Right, you have a parade there with some young men being paraded and some catcher of arms and ammunition. The other slide. Okay, moving on. 85 abducted as bandits return to Kaduna Abuja Expressway. I think Evelyn read something about this yesterday. Even within Abuja metropolis, the one chance criminals are there, and there was a time that people were going into people's homes to abduct them. It's that bad. And, you know, we spoke about the FCT minister really doing what he's supposed to do, you know, within the metropolis of the FCT, by the way, and then doing what is right. But then he's talking about the highways. People have deserted some highways because it's no-go area. But the Kaduna-Abuja highway, it's a major one. I wonder what our security agencies are doing. They are trying, by the way, that's what they say, but then they should do more to prevent these things, not just to bring people back after they have been abducted. And TB Joshua Scoan, fourth BBC report, ex-disciple knocks, I take that again, TB Joshua Scoan, fourth BBC report, ex-disciple knocks a late prophet. It's been some issues, especially coming out of that documentary released by the BBC about the late leader of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, Prophet TB Joshua, rather. The church, that's Koan, they are reporting 40, the report, by the way. Moving on, NNPCL post over 2 trillion naira profit. Fake degrees. Federal government proves 107 private universities, and Nigerians hail Tinubu as president, trims foreign trips entourage. And Lagos police look into Tiwa Savage's petition against the video. There was a petition allegedly written by Tiwa Savage yesterday, you know, and to the police that the video should be cautioned, that no harm should happen to her. And many persons are really talking about that. Maybe that might even be a PR, because you can never tell with these celebrities what they do to make the news. But EFCC seizing a former minister's passport, bank MDs grilled, suspended minister barred from traveling. We've looked into this, but I'd like you to speak to this, Ladiji, in a minute. Their documents have been seized.
Yes.
They are bad not to travel out.
Well, yes.
Standard procedure? Is that what it is?
I think that's one of those things that EFCC does. At least, pending the time she's still under investigation, she should not be able to travel. But again, my problem is, I hope in the next few days you won't see Better Edu go to EFCC office with collar on her neck, you know, because it has been the same drama.
To feign
sickness. Even the current Senate president, before he became the Senate president, he had medical conditions that always want to make him travel out, you know, and you will see their lawyer go to court and take a court judgment that they should go and treat themselves. But since Akpabio became the Senate president, what God cannot do does not exist. The sickness has vanished. Okay. So I hope EFCC follows this through. You know, when people, let me now go to the line of you news people now. She has been alleged to have stolen public fund. EFCC is saddled with the responsibility to investigate that, and I understand.
Better I do.
Yeah, Better I do. I'm talking about Better I do. We are talking about her, right? Yeah. And yes, they are grilling us some banks MDs too, you know, just to you know, spread the tentacles of the investigation. If she is guilty, fantastic. Let her pay. You know,
I think Better I do's case is about not doing things rightly. She has not really been alleged to have stolen anything.
Well, the money that went authorizing memo,
she's supposed not to have done it.
Authorizing memo for a fund to be moved into a private account.
Yeah,
is against.
Yeah.
So it's still, because moving public fund into a private account can mean, what do you want to do with it?
Intention.
Yeah. What do you want to do with the money?
Not like she has stolen.
Well, it is you that you are saying,
so
not like
clarify.
that. Clarify whatever you want to clarify. But if the money meant for this organization goes into the private account, then the question should be, what do you want to use the money for?
Tiwa Savage and Davido at each other's neck.
I think they just need to undo this maturely.
Tiwa hanged out with an ex, hung out rather, with an ex of the video, and the video's camp are not finding it funny. And they begin to throw tantrums at Tiwa. Tiwa now has petitioned the police to say, guys, this is what the camp of the video is doing.
Well, I think also in recent times, Davido and his camp need to calm down. I've seen stories about, you know, them trying to, quote and unquote, bully some people, maybe because of the affluence that they have. I think he should calm down. You don't need all these. God has blessed you, blessed your family. You are doing well with your music career.
Because you are not in good terms with somebody, doesn't mean someone else should not.
Of course, yes. She doesn't have to inherit your enemy.
Yeah.
So I don't see why you should, try and force someone.
Do you think this could be a PR? Because with celebrities, you can never tell.
Well, if it is a PR,
many of them have feigned death before.
Well, if it is a PR, then the police should also, have to, because you don't just vain threat on your life to the police. You don't stress the police because you don't use the police for PR. So I think if it is a PR, if it is for PR, that's the intention, then she should also be questioned.
That's what I don't think.
Well, I don't think it's going to be a PR.
They could have done some banters online
and all and all. But taking the police into this and think it's a PR, then maybe she would have to.
You know what I'm talking about. The possibility is there.
People
have said they have died.
But
just for PR.
And it is personal death.
Exactly.
So if death chooses to take him away, nobody will.
Exactly.
Thank you, Lady. And that is a good place to leave it for today.
It's always a pleasure.
To have a very blessed day.
You too, Femi and
Thank
Evelyn.
you. We'll go on this break. When we'll come back, we speak to governance and the way things should be done rightly. That will be after this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and the conversation starts right now, and it is about the anti-corruption posture of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, especially at the wake of the revelations that we have been seeing in the public space for the past few days, majorly about the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry headed by the now suspended Ms. Beta, who was said that she raised a memo authorizing a payment to be made into a private account to the tune of 585 million naira. And at the end of the day, on Monday, the president asked her to step aside. In fact, she was suspended to say, just step aside so the investigation can continue. And then that one on one side, the former minister who occupied the ministry, Ajia Sadia Umar Farouk, was alleged that something untoward was happened under her. Again, billions of naira was paid to one James Okwete to handle something, and that was not properly done as well. The lady that headed the NSIPA, that the Social Investment Program, under the same agency, under the same ministry, was said to have made a withdrawal for the 4 billion in which she was alleged to have said that was made in error. So these billions and millions flying around, one thing they have in common is that things were not properly done. And then the president, Ajia Sadia Farouk, as after many invitations that she declined, has gone to the AFCC to help them with the investigation. Same with the NSIPA boss, former now, and then Beta. How many persons are saying is the anti-corruption drive of Mr. President, saying that no ox will be gored under his administration? Is it the right push? And many of them are saying maybe some of these people who have something to do that have been told to step aside and have been invited by the EFCC, maybe they don't carry enough weight. Maybe they are politically dispensable persons rather, and now the big wigs, because many of the people in cabinet have some cases, one on the other, hanging around their neck. So we are being joined right now by Dapo Ogunwusi. He was an editor with the Nigerian Tribune. He is a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst. Good to have you, Dapo Ogunwusi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you. What do you make of what has been happening in the past few days and the way the president has spoken and reasoned to the occasion and basically the anti-corruption posture of President Bola Tinubu? What do you make of what is happening?
Well, if there are 100 thieves and you catch one or two of them, that is two thieves less. So whatever people may have as maybe some sort of a reservation or what have you, the truth of the matter is that we have certain inordinate activities around the resources of the country, and that these activities have been nipped in the bud, and we should be courageous enough to commend the government for at least doing that. Yeah, you may have other reasons to doubt the genuineness or the depth, but the fact is that this is one step in the right direction, and we should all applaud it.
One step in the right direction that should be applauded. In fact, many persons shares your opinion as well. But then some of, yes, you talk about people having their reservation, which is, okay, by the way, but they will say that if this has happened to some big wigs in the administration, when you say big wigs, the inner caucus of the president, some of those former governors, and people who are the big guns, that will the president have taken the same step the way he has taken it? Because you're talking about Sadia Umar rather, who many persons will say, okay, maybe she's not really there like that, politically speaking. Beta Edu, who was a commissioner before becoming a woman leader of the APC, and now the woman in charge, now suspended by the way, of the same ministry. That maybe it's because they don't carry that kind of political weight. Do you agree with that assertion?
Well, it is very difficult to know who is a paperweight and who is actually heavyweight in circumstances like this. And I will give you my corollary.
Please.
The origin of that ministry is shrouded in questionable integrity. When the ministry was created, it was just an open secret that it was created for the side chick of the president. Buhari created the ministry for a personal relation, due to a personal relationship with Shadia Farouk. And it was well known for several months that he was about to marry her. You cannot run away with certain realities, especially if they were never denied. At least denied with some level of credibility.
Yeah, but it was denied at the time, Mr.
No,
it was denied.
What happened was that the marriage never took place at the end of the day. The marriage just went up in smoke. But the fact that there was such an intention was peddled about with some level of credibility. And the creation of the ministry itself, it was almost something out of the blues. And they just elevated a parastatal into a ministry and put, the lady there. And throughout her tenure, there were always questionable things. There was a time that she said that she had distributed 20,000 naira into everybody's account, and people were looking at themselves, when did 20,000 naira land in my account? And then she got away with all those things. There was also a time they just put money on the table to be sharing out. I mean, it's so tragic. Now that is the root of that ministry. That is the origin. So anybody they put in such an organization, you could expect them to be with some level of impunity.
Yeah.
And they will be disappointed.
Mr. Ogunwusi, a whole lot actually happened in the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, and for one reason or the other, the former president seemed to be excused from all that happened in his administration. Now, you made, okay, that's just by the side saying that Sadia Umar Farouk was the president's side chick. But at the time, those were just mere speculations. I mean, when you said it, I just smiled because it was not confirmed at any time, you know. But let's get to the issue now. You speaking to the root of this ministry, how it was formed. We remembered that the social investment program was formally under the office of the vice president at the time, that's Professor Yemi Osinbajo, before it was taken from him, and this ministry, you know, starting out, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management. So I want to ask you, do we even need this ministry? Some people have asked if this ministry is necessary, or can't we just have the social investment program under another ministry entirely? If you're still with us, Mr. Ogunwusi, I'd like you to answer that question.
Well, you see, I have to unlock, because your question seems to be many questions in one. I like to unlock the issues involved.
Okay.
The first and the most important element of this question is if we actually needed the ministry. There is no doubt that every country I know, every civilized country, needs an agency that is ready and that is equipped to rise up to disasters and unforeseen events. In that ilk, you have earthquakes, you have massive fire outbreaks. Now we live in the terrorist zone of the world. You know, so much terrorist activity going on, people being displaced every day. A slice of the country is in the hands of hostile bandits. So definitely there will be victims who will need succor. That is not the problem. The problem is the way the ministry was set up and the way it has been managed since its inception. You see, ask yourself, how could 585 million naira be so easily available for somebody to mismanage like that? If you walk into a bank and you want to cash money or make a transfer, there is a limit. You cannot take a penny beyond 150,000 naira in a day as an individual. Come and explain to Nigerians how it was so possible for any agency of government without any form of restriction to tamper with so much money. So those are issues that we cannot ignore. And we should wake up as a people to the realities of our lives. It does not seem to me that the situation on ground is fully understood by the people who are, in control. It's like we are two different countries.
All right. Yes, Mr. Ogunwusi, talking about the 585 million naira, that was what took, at least, that was what was reported, took Better Edu, that was made out suspended because she authorized a memo, that payment should be paid into a private account for disbursement into the accounts of the vulnerable people in different states, including Cross Rivers, where she came from. Many persons ask, you're a legal practitioner, so please clarify, is it okay? Because there was even a reporter from that ministry to say, this is how we do here. More like it's a convention, it's a routine, but is it consistent with our laws that government money can be disbursed, can be authorized to be paid into a private account for onward disbursement? Many persons will say, the point is the money should be disbursed properly. Does it matter if actually it was transferred into a private account? You're a legal practitioner. Please clarify this for us.
Definitely, there is a lot that is wrong with that from the legal perspective. And anybody who says that is how things are being done, well, there is a lot of impunity, a lot of irregularity, a lot of dishonesty going on. That is just what they are trying to underline. It's not as if it is allowed by the rules. Before you can make a disbursement, there must be a environment. This is what this project is about. It goes through so many agencies of government, so many tables, before such an amount is even released. In this case, somebody sits down and just organizes the money to be thrown in certain directions. There is no justification at all for any activity like that. I agree they do that at the federal level. Look, there is so much criminality going on. They will tell you this is what the rules say. Nobody keeps to those rules at the most important levels. Nobody. Okay, I asked you a question. When you have a delegation of over 2,000 people going for a jamboree, have they ever told you how much a ticket costs Nigeria? And how much extra code was given to these people on the trip? Yet the money came out somehow. So it's a scandal that we run in the name of government.
You know, Mr. Goso, many will say, yes, you have established that this act of alleged act of Ms. Betaidu is inconsistent with our laws. You can't do that. You are not allowed to do that. But maybe because of routine and impunity happening in government MDAs, one will say, how much of a crime is that to say what she did was to authorize a memo that a particular sum of money should be paid into a private account for onward disbursement, not that she has spent the money, not that the money has been traced back to her. All she did was to authorize, which is not consistent with our laws. How much of a crime is that? Is she that culpable? And is it worth or being removed in office for?
It's wrong. And anything that is wrong has no other title. Basically, there is what you call fraudulent intent. If you want to pay money into an account, there must be sufficient justification for doing that. Not that you just carry out a environment by a memo. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I will not deceive you that anywhere in the world that such a thing could be acceptable. No, I don't think there's any society that does things like that. Anyway, we are Nigerians, we are special people.
Do you consider Dr. Betaidu a small fry? I mean, Femi mentioned it earlier, saying probably because she's politically dispensable, that's why we have this whole issue coming up, especially in our own ministry at this time. She's the first minister in the President Tinubu's administration to be suspended. Do you consider it a small fry? Because we have a report by Tracker NG that puts that the total money transferred into private account by the federal government is about 10 billion naira. And we had over 165 transactions of money, federal government money, public money transferred into private accounts.
Look, I believe in the law of first principles. How did this government itself start? How did they set up the cabinet? Look at the scandals that attended this screening. Half of the cabinet will not be in place, in a sane environment. All kinds of ridiculous characters who had EFCC cases, some of them who had been convicted. They are loaded into that particular cabinet.
Mr. Ogunwusi, it would be so good if we can, if we can be more specific. Let's mention them. Who are the ministers you think should not be in President Tinubu's cabinet at this time?
First of all, the DSS said they screened these guys. At the end of the day, a youth corper I mean, are you telling me that if they had informed them that, look, this person is just a youth corper, somebody would still have put her on the list of ministers? And what of all these EFCC cases affecting so many of them that were published in the media? And they just carried on. It is the age of impunity. You want to press me into mentioning names. You and I know that these were issues in the public domain. Honestly, I think it's all a scam, to be honest. But it is still one step. It is at least still one step in the right direction. We cannot run away from that fact. What we are suggesting, or what we are suspecting, is that maybe they are just throwing somebody under the bus just to give the people something to, because the entire posture of the government itself is highly questionable. They do things anyhow. You hear all kinds of terrible appropriations. 1.5 billion naira to buy cars for the president's wife in a year. Come on.
Yeah, Mr. Ogunwusi, are you saying, because the conversation this morning is about the posturing of Mr. President in his anti-corruption fight, and it's instructive to note that you're just saying maybe this is just to throw somebody under the bus to give people something to cheer about. Are you saying this anti-corruption drive of the president is just a ruse, after all?
You see, I keep going back to the beginning. When the ministers were when the names were being put together and they were being screened, there was a scandal that broke, that an officer who is very close to the government was associated with some backroom payments. Nobody investigated it. Rather, a certificate, a declaration of confidence in that officer was issued officially. So everybody should keep quiet. Don't let me deceive you. You cannot make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
If that is the beginning, let it begin. Let it carry on. Let it go on like that. We should be glad to see many more crooks. I learned that the Minister of Internal Affairs, who has actually done a number of remarkable things, is also a victim of this scandal, and I learned he has just stepped down. Perhaps you people have not confirmed that.
Okay, if that
is the starting point, we should all applaud it and wish it continues like that.
Mr. Ogunwusi, let's just, you've touched on the Minister of Interior, Mr. Olubomi Tunji Ojo, who was also said to be a big complicit in this fraud scandal. And I'd like to have your take on this. He is the founder of New Planet Projects Limited, and he's a shareholder, but he has been able to establish that he is no longer a director in this company. So he has no business in this company. He's just a shareholder, as he said. So if the company was given a project, a contract, he doesn't know about it. He doesn't sign. His signature is not on any document. So he cannot be said to be complicit or culpable in this scandal, in this fraud scandal. I'd like your take on this. He is no longer a director in this company that was paid over 400 million naira for consultation and all of that. But he's still a shareholder and he is the founder of the company. What's your take on this? Do you think it should be investigated?
Let me, from a lawyer's mind. When you are talking about bias operates in two ways. The obvious reality of bias. The second is the likelihood of bias. If at any time it was so closely, related with the founding of the company, it was so connected with the pulse of the company. And what you now have is what you call an effectual disengagement. The fact still remains that he's still somewhere in the shadows of that establishment. We all know how these things run. It is very difficult for the man on the street to imagine that he did not have any influence on that transaction. It is very difficult for you to tell me that. And as a matter of fact, under the law, it is saying that there is a likelihood of bias in a situation like that. And therefore, the entire transaction is tainted. You don't have to wait until somebody is dishonest. When already there's a posturing of dishonesty attached to that particular transaction, we should try and introduce some transparency. You know that there are some companies like Coca-Cola and all, when they are doing a raffle draw, they will say that all staff of Coca-Cola or their families cannot take part in this draw. I mean, haven't you seen such that kind of exclusion before?
Right.
Yes.
Somebody now benefits from an underhand payment in the dark, and you are trying to tell Nigerians that he was not connected with the active management of the organization, even though he founded it. Come on.
All right. Mr. Ogunwusi, what we want to say, this connection of Olubunmi Tunjiojo, the company that he founded as just a shareholder right now, is for, the company was only connected as the services was engaged by, as for consultancy, and it was done, you know, like officially, not really an underhand payment kind of dealings, by the way. But the issue is somebody in government is connected to a company who has been engaged for consultancy, and he has come out to say, yes, I founded it. I've resigned. I'm just a shareholder. I don't see to the day-to-day running of the institution. But many persons are holding him complicit to say, are you sure there will not be conflict of interest? Are you sure that the fact that you're in cabinet, you have not influenced something somewhere? And that is one. Number two, can we look at the political undertones? Because many persons will believe that Olubunmi Tunjiojo so far is one of the bright stars of this administration, trying to see that innovations are well put in place and things are well done at the Interior Ministry, starting with the immigration and other agencies, you know, under him as well. That maybe there are some persons that are not too pleased that this guy is shiny and they want him out of the way. Do you share that theory as well?
That is a possibility. But the truth of the matter is that when you come to equity, you must make sure your hands are clean. In this particular case, okay, you just tried to justify that there was some kind of consultancy and, you know, the transactions were above board and so on and so forth. You know, you just leave that line of thinking.
Yeah, officially speaking.
Yeah, just leave that. Please don't bother to go in that direction because it's a waste of time. We are talking about, okay, was there an open tender? And who are those who considered the tender before the consultancy was awarded? Look, don't go in that direction. But the point that you are making now is that the guy seemed to be doing very well, which I concede. But then, are we then paying for his doing very well? Because you cannot take with one hand what you give with the other hand. I mean, this is public service. Then why is it so unusual when people do the right things in office? Why must we see it as unimaginably difficult or impossible? It is so sad that we have boxed ourselves to this corner. We have cases of people who were commissioner for lands and never got a single plot of land, even though it was their right as citizens to get such a plot. That is when Nigeria was being properly run. Now everybody takes, plays hard and fast with the resources of the country. It is so tragic.
All right, Mr. Ogunwusi, indeed, the threshold for bad governance for Nigerians has been on the high. So when people see good governance, they see it as a miracle. and sing the praises of these officials to high heavens, because it's something that naturally we are not used to as a country, but we hope that we can get better. Now, recently, in an interview, the senator representing Kogi Central, Senator Sunday Karimi, said that there are some cabals. You know, the word cabals started in the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, and he said there are some cabals that are using or wanted to use the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Better Adu, for their own, for their own thing. But then this came out, she was caught, and, then she advised the president to actually ensure that these cabals, their tentacles are caught, their wings are caught, so they do not actually have the power to destroy his administration. Because according to him, they are set to actually sabotage the administration of President Bola Tinubu. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's an excuse, because all the time you hear things like that. There are some detractors, there are some, fraternities trying to work against the interests of government. But you don't need to tell anybody to prevent the operation, because the government is fully equipped. You have security, you could lock up the governor of Central Bank without any excuse. You can lock up the EFCC, chief executive, without any excuse. So why should you say some people are holding your hand back? That is crutches for the cripple. It's crutches for the cripple, because that is why you were elected in the first place, to deal with these cabals that are bringing back the hand of the clock. But sometimes when people look in the mirror, they think they see somebody else, because they cannot believe that they are so ugly.
All right. Speaking about this anti-corruption drive of Mr. President, one would say the fact that he has came out to say, okay, Better Adu, you're suspended pending investigation. Ajia Umar Sadia, invited by the EFCC, the NSIPA boss, group by the EFCC as well. One might want to say that it's a clear departure from what we used to know, especially with the last administration, who appeared to, that the leader, President Buhari, appeared to be unaware, quote unquote, of most things that happened under him, and in which we are getting to see some of these things that happened under him as well. But the president seems to be seeing, the president, I'm talking about President Tinubu, seems to be hearing and is doing what the people want. I want you to, is it really worth of being called a clear departure from the past, talking about what we are seeing now, that the president is speaking to what is really happening?
Yes, it is actually a welcome development, and one who wish it continues, even though I know, and I suspect you to know, that this is a government that has springboarded an unimaginable level of dishonesty and corruption. But if they start from this level, we should applaud and encourage them, in the hope that they really get to the heart of the problem. So, I mean, we have no choice than to acknowledge that this is a positive development. But we only wish it does not stop here.
All right. If I may quickly squeeze in this, because we are really pressed for time, and you hinged on that in your previous analysis of our question, is to say there's many members of the cabinet of President Tinubu who had and are still having EFCC allegations, allegations of corruptions on their neck. An example is the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, who was the governor of Zamfara, who was alleged even by his own successor to say, you went away with fleet of cars, and these fleet of cars were not just allegations. They have been, they went to his house in his village, they went to his company in Guso to go and retrieve some of these cars, and these are persons in the cabinet. So what does that say of the administration?
Well, I already spoke to that. The truth of the matter is that these people were never screened. It is a cabinet of exigency. try and put people together who agree with the president, who can help him stabilize. That's the kind of thing I think is going on. Because whether you like it or not, half of those people in government today should not be there. Look, it is true, maybe they were not convicted in some of the cases.
Yeah.
But you cannot have this like that hanging on your neck and still go on into high office. I mean, it is like you are scoffing at the whole idea of integrity. Perhaps, look, maybe they are all in good company, if you get what I'm trying to say. Maybe like, people tend to move with people who look like them.
So people have said that President Tinubu is responsive. I mean, his first few months in office, he is tempted to be responsive. He's hearing what people are saying and responding appropriately to what people are saying, bringing up actions and counteractions. Do you consider President Bola Ahmed Tinubu a responsive president? And also, do you think he has been selective with his actions? I mean, you spoke about the people in his cabinet now that have loads of EFCC cases on them at the moment. Do you think he's been selective of the people he's, throwing under the bus?
Well, people say that have some justification. But in my own way, I like to be positive. I like to think maybe he was sleeping and he has just woken up.
Okay.
And we should all encourage it. Because anybody who puts pen to paper and asks 1.5 billion naira to be used to buy cars for his wife in a year, I mean, it says a lot about that kind of person. How many cars could you travel in at once? And this person is not an elected official. She is just the wife of an elected official. Look, there is so much that is wrong already, but we can start to unravel, and we should have all hands on deck.
All right.
And commit them and encourage them to continue along the better edu direction.
All right. Do you see this case and cases going all the way to a very logical conclusion? Because many persons say we have been here before. Some of these things are just, playing to the gallery. Do you see this pulling through, the president going through with this?
I think there are two kinds of trials usually in a situation like this. There is a court trial, which I think you are alluding to.
Yes.
There's also a trial in the public domain. I think in the public domain, it has been a well-taken case. Everybody seems to be aware that at least somebody will rise up from his slumber and stop some level of decay.
All right.
All right.
I'm satisfied with that. But about whether they get jailed eventually and things like that, I do not want to hazard a guess. I do not want to hazard any guess on that, please.
All
because what I think about the system is far more, unattractive.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Dapo Ogunwusi. It is a very good place to end the conversation this morning. Mr. Dapo Ogunwusi is a veteran journalist. He was an editor at the Nigerian Tribune, and he is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Morning Spring. It has been a great conversation with you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Of course, that's a good place to leave it. We'll get to have him maybe in the coming days to really speak on some other issues. We are pressed for time, actually. He was saying that he wouldn't want to say what he thinks, and one of these days we'll get to have him to say what he thinks about the administration and governance in Nigeria. Of course, it's Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. This is where we look into critical matters every day, trending topical ones that has to do with issues of public importance. Thank you for being with us today. You can have a recap of this program on our YouTube channel. Of course, we are live right now, and on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television, you have the address scrolling on your screen, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on X, all at Western Spring Television. We'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Femi Ojo is my name. Have a very rewarding day, Evelyn.
Yes, Femi, talking about trending topics, stay put. We are going to be having spring trends come on board right after this show. Do not go anywhere. My name is Evelyn Ohiole, and I see you in just a bit.